Hello.
Hello,
Hi, it's Rupert, right? Rupert?
Rupert, yes.
Rupert, and where are you hailing from?
Well, I'm in Lawrence,
Okay,
Kansas, but you can probably hear from my accent, I'm from England.
excellent,
Um,
excellent.
yeah,
Well, glad to have you. I see you were talking with Larissa. Hi, my
Yes,
dear. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I have the
Wonderful.
best life of anyone I know at this point, so I have no complaints. And today is my favorite day of the month, so
Oh,
what's
absolutely.
not to like? And Quantum Alchemist, is that you, Rhonda Durham? Oh, she's got herself muted. I think that's Rhonda.
Yes,
Hello. Yay. Hi, how you doing?
I'm still here.
Good. Well, I'm glad you're still here. I'm glad you're still here. Well, we have a few minutes before we start formally, but this first little bit is for us to just, get to know each other for those who are new and just catch up for those of us who haven't seen each other for a little while. And, this is kind of what we do when we go to the field, just so you know, Rupert, when we do have our group excursions, we usually try to do like a little, potluck or something before we actually do the protocols, just
mm,
so we can kind of transition from the world into our group, start to form a little coherency, and then also just to because we're also chit-chatty to kind of get that out of the way before we go into the more meditative part of it. So but we'll formally introduce you to the group in a little bit, and any other newcomers who show up, and then maybe we'll have you say a couple of words about why you're here and everything, because it'll be really interesting. And I'm recording the whole thing. Hopefully it will stay recording even when I go outside, and
Well,
we'll
yeah,
see
that
what
says
happens.
there's recording on this end.
Good. So yeah, like I said, usually we pre-COVID, especially on a day like this,
Oh,
glorious
yeah.
day, we would be out in the field. We have a nice location that we go to out where there's a dark sky. And actually, since the pandemic happened, we've had 3 other people come forth and offer their land too in various places, so that we're not just going to one place, where it might be easier for some people to get to one and than the others. So we may start rotating once we get into a little different time. But yeah, so we're going to have a virtual circle tonight, and those who want to go outside during the protocols and everything, the Skywatch, we can do that, and those who can't, we'll still include you. So we'll see how it works out. It works out great, actually. I work on a lot of international teams, and we're all in different time zones, and we do this several times a month where, for some of us it's daytime, for some of us it's nighttime, and for those who can, they'll take their devices outside and participate, and those who don't have that ability will they'll go outside once we finish the meditations and have some fun if the weather permits for them. So, and let's see, well, somebody else came on while I was talking. Now I don't see them. Hopefully they come back. But anyway, how's everybody else doing while we're waiting? And you don't have to mute yourselves right now. This is just talk time.
well, I'm doing well. I just moved to Lawrence from Las Vegas.
Okay.
So I'm still familiarizing myself with the area.
Mm-hmm.
So a big change, but I've had big changes before, so it's okay.
Cool. Awesome. Well, yeah, the humidity is a big difference here than it is in Las Vegas. That's for sure.
Very different, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to. I have hosted my own CE5 group in Vegas, and
Awesome.
that I'm going back next weekend to host another event. And
Wonderful.
I'm a little bit hesitant because the temperature there at the moment is something like 113.
That's what I thought. Yeah. I have friends in that area, and I actually, do conferences in that area. I won't this year probably, of course, but yeah, even, last year, I think it was November when I went to do a conference to do StarWorks in Laughlin, and it was still in the 90s, some days. I mean, I was so busy I didn't get to go outside much. We did some Skywatch in the night, and I can remember still just having on summer clothes, So and it was glorious actually. But yeah, well, that's nice of you to go back and host. How long did you have your group there?
It was only about 6 months, but it overlapped obviously with the release of the CE5 movie and the app, and suddenly there were hundreds of people joined the app, and so it's grown very quickly. And I have assistant organizers who host events on a weekly basis. One of the reasons I'm going back is because one of my friends, one of the admin, has become so good at meditation that as soon as she sits down in her back garden, spiritual type orbs start appearing in the sky, and she's been videoing them every evening.
Cool.
And she's very impressive at meditating, but not very impressive with her video camera skills.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm heading back there to spend a couple of evenings with her to try to capture these really clearly on video and camera.
Good.
They're looking pretty impressive. So
that's amazing. I'm so enthralled when I'm having contact that I rarely remember to try to video. I've only got like 3 good videos from a lifetime of contact. And I just took some photos and one tiny short video last night just with my phone and posted on our page. And if you haven't seen it, you can go look at it. But there is a sphere with a rotating center. The video, I don't even know if it'll show up on your screens. It shows up on my large monitor. But when I started taking the video, as you know, the iPhone cameras, the new one has pretty good night vision capability. It's for a phone, but the still camera. But when you go to video, it doesn't do it. And I noticed it just looked pitch black on my screen. So I'm like, oh, I might as well just shut it off. It's not worth it. And then I was reviewing my photos and that video this morning on my large monitor, and I could see it. I mean, it's faint, but you can see it, and it's moving, and very, anonymously, or how I want to say it, erratically.
Yeah.
It's not anything. And I wish I would have had the presence of mind, and I will start doing that when it got me so excited about it, because people really, are attracted to the photos and the videos. It may be the very first bridge for them to actually be brave enough to come in and try to do this work if they're curious.
Yeah.
But it really lit a fire under me to always try to document it in some way now, because there's just so much activity happening now. And you just never know. So we'll see. I just kind of go off and be with them and merge, and I forget. And that's okay too. But not everybody is meant to be the documenter. But I'm glad that you're going to do that, especially if she's very successful in bringing them in. That would be fantastic. Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. I'm having a fabulous day. We're just kind of all hanging and getting acquainted at this point. It's still early. And I'd kind of forgotten that in the summer we usually start later because it doesn't get dark till after 9, you know, but our just our social time ahead of the protocols is always fun. So
yeah, definitely.
So anyway, Matt, have you done any of these with us yet?
I did
done
one.
Yeah, you did one. Okay. All right. Yeah, this one may be a little bit more formally formatted than the one you were at. I can't remember which one you were at, but you know, when we first started doing Zoom ones after the COVID lockdown, we were just basically hanging out together and, you know, sharing stories and stuff. But we are going to do the protocols tonight, some of them, and kind of get people ramped up with that and see how the energy goes. So
yeah, that'll be really fun.
Yeah, it'll be fun. And Rupert, we were just talking to Rupert. Why don't we just go ahead and get started? I'm recording it, so if people do come in, and people do pop in and out of these things, you know, as they can. But why don't you go ahead and just make a little self-introduction and tell us about how you got started in CE5 and what interested you, or, you know, what started the whole thing, and kind of a little bit about yourself. And then we'll just go around the virtual circle. I'll call each one of you out and you can kind of just tell a little bit. That's what this time is for mainly. Okay? So Rupert, You're on. Thanks.
Fantastic. Well, ever since I was a child, I've always just wanted to understand reality. All these big questions. Is God real? Are ghosts real? Reincarnation? UFOs? Aliens? What's real? What's not? So I started researching religions. I started learning science. I got up to PhD X-ray astrophysics level.
Love it.
University. Studied physics with space science and technology, first class honors degree. So I was doing all of that. I was also researching the supernatural because, you know, if you're a good scientist, you understand that the history of science shows a progression of knowledge about reality. And at every stage, there's always arrogant scientists that will say, we now know everything. We now know everything. No, this is not. And so I consider myself more a logician than a scientist. If something is real, it doesn't mean some things can be real without being explained by science yet.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I started researching all of this, and I over the period of about 10 years, I gained so much what I felt was real knowledge about the subject, all of the subjects of what I refer to as the extra normal. That I wrote a book. It was originally going to be a textbook about the supernatural or extra normal, but it felt a little bit dry and boring, so I turned it into a novel. But it's full of information, and that's now been published on Amazon. Then when I moved to Vegas, and I realized there was such a lot going on in that area in terms of UFOs, and the movie Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind came out. I just said, you know, I'm just going to open my own group and go out and do this. And so within a couple of weeks, I had 20 members. Within a couple of months, I had 50, and it just kind of escalated. And now there's weekly meetings. I host Zoom conferences. Before I came out here, I did a quick search, and I didn't find your group. So I actually started a Kansas CE5 group.
Cool.
I've only got 20 members or something at the moment. There's probably some in both of your group as well. So I've hosted a couple of events with them, some on Zoom, where we collaborate with my group in Vegas.
Love it.
As a scientist, I feel like I can adequately, I know it's a bit controversial and not everybody would agree, but I go out sometimes in the field in a safe way, just keeping very distant, wearing masks,
Sure.
doing CE5 events. So I still do some of those. And I'm just excited about the direction that this movement is going. And some of my group members who are very good at remote viewing are bringing ETs and transdimensional beings down every time they do it, and connecting with them. And some of them are artists, and they're drawing very impressive pictures of them. And I'm starting to feed them questions so that we can learn more about them and build up sort of a knowledge base or a database of information. And yeah, so that's where I am. I'm very excited to be here. I'm very happy that I found your group. Thank you so much for being so welcoming. I'm enjoying all of your posts.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we're so glad to have you, and it's really an honor to have a scientist join us who is a formal scientist, you know. And if you will, at some point this evening, if you'll type in the chat window your book and any contact info and all of you can do that. We have several writers
absolutely.
And in the group and so forth. But put that in the chat so that we can, you know, get your book, so we can support you. And then also, just because, you know, that's how we do this, especially our group. We try to bring as much coherence as possible. That's how we have such successful contact. In this group, we really do. And it sounds like you do in your groups too. And yeah, you know what? I have many, many, many friends who are team leaders, you know, ambassadors who are doing this in person tonight, doing just as you said, with masks, social distancing, and that's great. I just happen to have a very special family situation where I can't risk it myself.
Yeah.
And there are several others who are immunocompromised in our group. So we just thought, again, we would try it one more time like this. And we just keep hoping that it gets a little better so that people feel safe enough to do it. But yes, and please invite us to your Kansas group as well. This is something that I try to encourage everyone to do. Like I said before, I serve on a lot of international teams, and I travel, but we also we work with Zoom as well. And I have several teams here in the U.S. where I collaborate with other team leaders, and we hold retreats and events like that as well, or at least we did up till this year. And so, you know, I've always felt this way. It's like yoga or the martial arts or any other wonderful spiritual endeavor. It's always a beautiful thing to integrate with other groups who have, you know, of like mind or like heart, but maybe you learn a lot from them that you didn't learn from your group, or you just, you know what, just get as much as you can. And I just love that you're doing this. So thank you. We're really honored to have you, and you sound like a delight. So I can't wait to see what happens with you here in the group. Thank you, Rupert. Rhonda Durham, why don't you go next and just say a little bit about yourself, you know, and whatever you want to interject here. Okay. One of our long-standing members.
Oh, well, yeah. Not a whole lot about me. I've had contact all my life. Currently, I'm a caregiver, so I'm one of those compromised people. Had a lot of family health things going on right now with my elderly parents. Yep. I'm a massage therapist by trade, quantum alchemist. I do holistic and natural health coaching and education and research. I have recently been getting back to my Ramtha studies. I've been a student of Ramtha since the 80s. and I love my teacher. And I've recently read his book, UFOs and the Nature of Reality, because he's always taught us that he was an alien and that we're alien DNA and all the things I think our group kind of takes for granted. And one of it in the end was discussing a different kind of protocol that I won't get into here, but in practicing this, it was really cool because, you know, I've seen non-humanoid type beings, as long as I can remember. I mean, there's humanoid types, and then there's, you know, not the non-humanoids. Mm-hmm. And so I was sitting in my discipline and reading this book and you know, doing this, and I had to stretch my mind because one of the statements he made is some of the most benevolent and loving beings would terrify us if we actually looked upon the way they appear.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And so, you know, and I've seen some things that aren't normal. Well, in this one discipline I started, and this was recently, so I'm just trying to catch up to where I'm doing. Mm-hmm. It started off as like the typical one on your shirt, Debs. And then it started morphing into like a mantis being. And then it started morphing on from there. And the love in its eyes, it was just welling up. And it was so amazing and wonderful. And it started morphing more. And then I kind of, next thing I know, I'm coming back to consciousness, and it's like an hour and a half later, and I'm like, oh, I have to get better at remembering and bringing it back.
Yeah. And you will as you progress with the relationship, you know?
Oh, yeah.
You will. And that's a beautiful sharing. Thank you. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. And so needed for you right at this time. I'm sure it was just the most perfect interaction for you right now.
Yeah, it is really great. And when you think about love, you think about someone you can go up and hug and do all this, and some of these beings, it's like, how do you, it's just an energetic sharing, and
they're not physical, right?
No. When you see the energy and the lights and the vibrations, and there's like different webs or mesh and things, I can't even describe it, so I'm not going to try, and I'm going to shut up now and let someone else go.
Well, I can feel you. I can feel it, and it's beautiful. But thank you so much, and we love you. You know, we're so grateful you're part of our group. You've been really active with us since the beginning and long ago. So it's great. So thank you. Matt, you want to go next? You're one of our newer members. Go ahead and introduce yourself for those who don't know you, and say a little bit about it.
Hi, I'm Matt Perky. Yeah, I just joined, so gosh, it's been, I think I saw the movie back, the Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, and when did it come out, in like March or April? So yeah, that's kind of what got me into all this. Before this, like, I'd kind of been into UFOs my whole life, just kind of wondering what that was. What really got me into it in my adult life the most was I had a photo where there's basically a saucer shape in it, and I took a series of photos at this time on a trip, and there's not anything else. It's not in any other photos, even though I took them all at the same time, relatively. And I thought it was a drop of water for a long time because it was on a rafting trip, but I tried putting water on my camera lens. I couldn't reproduce it, so that's what got me really interested. And then I tried the protocols back in May, and, you know, I was kind of open-minded, but not really sure, you know, how it would go. And then after like 3 weeks, something showed up, you know, a craft showed up and basically floated over my house, and I was just blown away. Like, I couldn't, and it was daytime, you know, I mean, it was clear as day. I got video of it. I wish I had a better lens on my phone at the time, but, you know, it was nice having the video, because then I could, you know, kind of solidified it in my mind and everything. So yeah, I've just been exploring stuff since then. And and one other thing that got me interested before the Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind was, I'd say what really solidified, like, hey, this is a real thing to me, versus I'm interested in this, but I'm not quite sure if it's real. When I bridged that gap, I saw Dorothy Izot's case
Yes.
What was that called? Capturing the Light.
Capturing the Light. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great little book. Great little documentary.
Yeah, it's just amazing how much film she has, and I mean, what more proof do you want? I mean, other than
what is it, like 50 years worth, isn't it? Something like that. Tens of thousands of hours of film. Yeah.
And that it's all on film, and there's those tracers in between frames. It's like impossible to reproduce. And then they had it done in a different lab, and for me, I was just like, okay. I mean, that kind of case
all in.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for bringing Dorothy up, because that's a really interesting case, and it's a really important case, I believe. And not very many people in our community know about her yet. And yet she was just this little quiet woman who did not want publicity. And just, you know, she just had this relationship with them, and she just filmed them always and kept all the films. And, you know, so it's been very recently that all that was made public. And I don't know, I'm just very taken with her story. So thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah.
And thank you for being here.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm glad to be able to make it tonight. The other thing with her that she talked about how, you know, kind of having an open heart and like all the different things that are in CE5. That's kind of what got me wondering about this whole thing. And I wasn't, you know, like I said, I stumbled across the film, but if I would have seen the film, I think without seeing hers first, I don't know if I would have been as open to it. I don't know, maybe really? I would have, but cool. It kind of prepared, it's weird, it kind of prepared me for it. And the other thing was, I forget who's in Oregon, the ECETI Ranch, James Gilliland.
Yeah, James Gilliland, ECETI, yeah.
Yeah, I saw
Mount Adams.
Some of their, I saw some of their movies, and you know, to me, that kind of was the two main things that really got me thinking. Okay, huh.
One of my dear friends who he lives on the other side of Missouri, so we don't get to practice much. In fact, it's been 2 or 3 years since I've practiced with him. But Matt Marabona, you may see him floating in and out of all these CE5 groups if you're in some of them on Facebook. He worked at ECETI last year, all summer. He helped. Wow. Well, he went, you know, late winter to help prepare for opening, and was there all summer. And he says it's just one of the most active places he's ever been. You know, there's some controversy. There's always controversy between all these different groups and all these different people, you know, because everybody puts their own personal spin on it, and sometimes they politicize things and all that. If we could just dissolve that, our community worldwide would be so powerful. We would be unstoppable in what we could do. But yeah, there was some divisiveness there towards the end of summer, so he left. But what he came away with was, you know, he would tell me, he would, you know, email me and say, we had over 200 sightings last night. Like, that's tremendous. Yeah. But that is a huge hot spot. So, yeah. So, but, you know, thanks for sharing. And I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad that movie switched on so many people who were unaware of this practice. You know, it's been going on, you know, at least Dr. Greer's form has been going on since the 90s, and I've been following him since then. But I've had lifelong contact myself, like every day pretty much, and have a great relationship. And I'm very science-based too, because I wanted to be balanced in that. I would probably just spin off the face of the earth if I hadn't gotten into science myself. But so I have a very, I've been in the community for a long time, and a lot of my best friends are in that movie. And so, and in fact, I filmed for part of the movie, but you know, they could only put so many hours in that movie. But yeah, this when was it? April of this year, we were all supposed to go out and do the premiere, and of course it had to get shut down. But I was gobsmacked the very next day, because in the movie they mentioned the app. We knew the app was coming out. You know, he had an app already, which was great. And then there's that other service, which I'm dear friends with, Costa McCrease and Hollis Polk, and they run etletstalk.com, which has had an extraordinary service of putting people together with an interactive model all over the world, and you know, has, I can't remember how many tens of thousands of people forming groups and doing this every month at this time. But what was I going to say? A lot of my dear friends are in that movie, and we were all just incredibly shocked, because the very next day we started getting pinged constantly by people who had never been exposed to it much, and they watched that movie on a whim and found the app, got on the app and said, oh my gosh, there's a group right near me, you know. And so like you, Rupert, we went from, our little group was maybe 30 people to now we have over 100. And there are many people who wanted to join, but then I would say, well, you're welcome to join our group, but I know of a group that's right next to you, so let me introduce you to this person. And so I've been doing a lot of outreach that way. But yeah, that movie has really opened up people's eyes, and I'm so glad it's out there. And I'm so glad, you know, there are many other movies that several of us have helped film over the last couple of years that are still in the can, just because we can't get together to finish it, or it's, you know, it's not going to be in the movie houses or anything yet. So we're just waiting, but there are lots more coming, let me just tell you, and very soon. So it's going to be really exciting. So anyway, I'm just blabbering. So I'm going to get off, and thank you so much, Matt. Did you have anything else you wanted to say before we move on?
No, it's awesome to hear that there's more films coming though.
Oh yeah, lots more films coming. Absolutely. Larissa, you're up, darling.
Yeah. My name's Larissa. I met Debs when I got my Master Reiki attunement. And I joined the group, and I think I followed the group for like 2-3 years, just kind of sitting in the back. And an event came up. I decided to go, and that event was just absolutely mind-blowing. I just, you know, you watch the Ancient Aliens, and you're like, wow, I really wonder. And then just going out that first time with Debs, it's like nailing the coffin shut. Yes, it's there. You know, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. You know,
it was undeniable that night. That's
yeah,
sure.
Absolutely.
We had probably 70 sightings that night. We lost count. Yeah.
From the pillar of light in the middle of us. Right. Yeah, it was just. But my background is also aviation. When I was in the military for 6 years, I worked on the Apache helicopter. So.
That's why we're grateful, among many other reasons, to have you in our group, because Larissa keeps us accountable when we get too excited. Even if it doesn't show up on our app, she'll be like, no, that's this aircraft. You know, maybe it's just not showing up, but I love that about you.
Yeah. So aircraft identification, even at night. Yeah. I just wish this would all end soon so we can get back out in the field.
Well, it will either end and we will, or it won't, and we'll figure out how to do it right without harming anybody. Yeah. And, you know, the world, we adapt, right? And
one way or another, something's going to happen.
That's what I'm being told. It's the messages come through every single day, and there's way more to this than any of us knows. In fact, the the beings that I channel, well, I channel whoever wants to come through, but my main group are the star teachers. And they are pushing me to have another, global event where they can give the message that they want to give, and then, answer questions and so forth, and do some activations. But basically the topic is just that the virus, what we are calling a virus, is way more than that, and it's a much more positive thing, even though right now it doesn't seem like it. So I can't wait to hear what they have to say, and I'll probably make an announcement about that event in the next couple of days. I thought I was going to do it last weekend, and I got waylaid with a family situation where we actually thought we all had been exposed to COVID ourselves, and we were bucking around trying to make provisions in case like my elderly father-in-law was going to get sick and so forth. So it kind of took my attention away for a little bit, but anyway. But do you want to talk a little bit about what you do in your life now and how that relates?
I brought everything in my aircraft, my knowledge of aircraft, and I loaned out my hands and I wrote a book. It's purely fiction, but there was a lot of stuff that I put down that I don't know where it came from. When I go back to reading it, I'm like, wow, I wrote this. Wow, I'm going to buy this. I'm in the process of republishing. I self-published, but since 2014, when I released my book, I have learned so much about the whole publishing industry, even as an independent publisher, how things actually go in order to actually have a really nice book. And yeah, it costs a lot of money. So that's what I'm working on. At this point, it's with a professional editor, waiting for the lottery to hit so I can have them professionally edit it. It's going to cost me in excess of $6,000. Mm-hmm. So yeah, to have it professionally edited. For the grammar stuff is all squared away because, Microsoft has their little Office 360 that has all the spell check, grammar check, and all the mechanics is fine. It's just about content and story flow.
Continuity, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot to it.
So with that, I tell everybody I paint with words. I'm also an artist. I just finished a piece called The Remover of Obstacles, which is my rendition of Ganesh. I'm currently working on my octopus sometimes. I suffer from a lot of mental issues with PTSD in the military, so a 9-to-5 job is not possible for me. So writing in my artwork is what I do to try to offset not having, the income. We were going to have a book signing at Deb's studio, and there was a thunderstorm, so Debs and I just talked for like hour and a half. And when she showed me this picture of Ganesh that one of her friends did, and I said, I don't know how, I don't know what or how or when, but one day I'm going to do that. And yeah, I finished it 2 weeks ago. It took me pretty much the entire month of June to do. And it's done with watercolor and stippling, gonna neat, one dot at a time. So yeah, I channel energy, Reiki master practitioner, and my energy goes into all my creativity. I mean, everything. You can look at my
I will jump in here and say, I read the first edition of her book called Dragon Squadron. And yes, it's a wonderful, seemingly like a fantasy fiction book, but there is an energy. If you literally are reading the words, something is happening. You're getting an upgrade when you read that book, when you hold the book. I mean, there's energy transference coming through that book. And then, you know, she's always been a great artist, but this beautiful painting she did of Ganesh is just remarkable. And for those of you who haven't seen it, I think you posted it on the, oh yeah, there's the book.
I'll put Ganesh back on the, post it again on the page.
Post it again on our page so people can look at it close up, because it's remarkable. It literally is, it's stipple work, it's dots. And it's incredible. And there's an incomparable energy that comes off of that painting. So anyway, we appreciate you for all that you do and who you are, and for what you contribute to our group. And, you know, despite, I mean, everyone has their obstacles that are, or challenges that they have to deal with in life from their past experiences. And I'm so honored to know you, because you are very courageous in the face of some of that, and still do so much for others. And it's just a wonderful thing to have you in our group. So thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy Romano, I'm so glad you're here. I didn't think you were going to get to make it this time, but yay.
Hi, yes, I'm here. Hi, I was a little late coming in, but I guess I came to this because I was just going through the world trying to, you know, reading about all the truths, and I mostly was following like Danny Sheehan, I guess.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then, you know,
He's
there
a
were
friend.
just so many things that would come through. And then one day I was listening to him, and you know, he says, well, somebody said, well, what do you do with all these like things that, you know, happen in the world, and all the truth of things that are really hard to take? He says, well, what I would suggest, he said, just sit down and meditate. So I have been doing yoga myself, just the exercise part, for a year. I went to a local kind of guru, and he has a book, and I got the book, and it has like pictures of what you can follow. So I followed a routine, and then I just started meditating. I'm just so new to it. And so then he, I guess with his new paradigm, part of his
Paradigm Institute,
yes, he had Costa on there. So I joined ET Let's Talk, and I tried to find a CE5 group through that. But I even though I did a lot of work emailing people, I didn't really have success. And then then I guess, how did I come? Oh, you must have been on Costa's page or something, and I started watching your YouTubes, and then without even thinking I was going to do any CE5 at all, I just was benefiting from having a meditation to follow, like, and then my inner life started growing so fast that, and then like I had somebody contact me, because I didn't realize I had actually gone on I remember going on Steve Greer's Sirius and put myself on that map, but I never did any work with that. But someone else watched the movie a couple of months ago, and then she contacted me, but it's been like, I think they do their meditation on the 6th or the beginning of the month. They do it
the first Saturday of the month. Yeah.
The first Saturday. Okay. Well, she's very keyed into that, and then couldn't make it last month. It's sort of on and off and hot and cold, because she watched the movie and then she wants the group, but she seems to be forming a group. But it's not really a group. But I have gone out myself when I couldn't make it with her once, and went out with my husband. I told you that. And I listened on the earphones to a YouTube meditation that you had done. And then I had like those scintillating light beings come twice. And
love it.
So I just keep that in my mind, and I never really expect anything. I still do it and listen, and just whatever. I'm hoping something happens tonight, but you know, I'm just interested in being comfortable with this new inner life I have. And I watched the harmonic conversion. I didn't miss anything on that. And so that's just
so
like
good.
I mean, you're here, and then all of a sudden you're like,
I know,
expand you so much. Like I took so many screenshots, and I now I'm going back to try to find more information. It just gets bigger and bigger. I can't even believe it. So I'm
It's
all giddy
wonderful.
over it. Yeah.
It's wonderful. Remind me, where are you located, Kathy?
Well, usually I'm in Philadelphia, but my daughter lives in Rochester, so that's where I am right now.
Okay,
In Rochester,
great.
New York. There's a lot
Great.
of Rochesters, but so yeah.
Great.
But usually I'm in Philadelphia.
Well, thank you for joining us, and thank you for being so open and sharing, you know, all of you, you know, your lives with us. And this is something that's so wonderful about having this technology, is that we have, you know, it keeps us from becoming too sequestered in little cliques when we do this, right? So we do have our local Kansas City group, and all of you are welcome at any time when we do practice in person to join us. And, you know, we'll find a way to get you some sort of place to stay and all of that. If you do come, I have people always asking. But, you know, if you ever want someone to come and lead something where you are, let's just talk about it. Again, it's about this interaction with our community that brings us into global coherence, which is what, you know, what Mark was doing with the harmonic convergence. You know, he's a friend, and a lot of the people who were doing that are friends. So I was really involved, and I thought it was one of the greatest achievements, you know, as far as internet events go, ever. I think you know, notwithstanding it wasn't on the internet at the time because we didn't have it for the public by then, but it put me in mind of back in the olden days when we had Live Aid, you know, the Live Aid concerts. And some of the musicians, like Phil Collins, literally played a show in America, got on the Concorde, flew over to Europe and played another show in the same day. And that was, you know, there were millions and millions of people all over the world watching and participating in that effort, you know, over that weekend. And, you know, first it was Woodstock, and then it was that, which was much larger. And then we keep doing larger and larger things. Well, this harmonic convergence event over the past 10 days was the biggest thing ever. And let me tell you, it really catapulted the energy for global coherence. And I had some extraordinary experiences myself, and that's saying a lot because my life is full of them. But I'm so grateful. And if you missed it or you weren't able to participate, they're the most important parts of it are out there on YouTube, or I can steer you to them. I highly recommend it. They're timely. Just go ahead and listen to any of them and do the practices. But I'm so glad that, you know, there's a running thread in these stories that we're hearing tonight of people being curious, or maybe, you know, just something hitting them over the top of the head, waking them up, and then suddenly all of the resources that they need or new information just comes in at the right time and feeds your soul just enough to keep you going. That sounds like what's happening with you, Kathy, and you, Matt. You know, you're kind of new to it. And even Rupert, you know, who's been studying this stuff all his life, but then all of a sudden you have this particular set of protocols that seem to really, you know, kind of fine tune the way we are absolutely able to make contact. I mean, you don't need to do them, but I will tell each of you, especially those of you who want to have your own groups or who are just starting your own groups, the protocols are really nice, especially when you have people who are neophytes to this work, who've never had or think they've had contact. I believe everyone has had lots of contact, but they either don't remember it or they don't have a context to understand that they've had it. But those protocols, and, you know, and then putting your own signature on it and forming similar ones that really help bring coherence in the group or coherence between yourself and, you know, cosmic family, those things really do help, because it's kind of like, you know, we all know that there are some prodigies, for instance, musically, who are just born into the world knowing how to play and compose on the piano, for instance. But they're very rare. Most people who are musical geniuses, that we would call them wonderful musicians or composers, first they had to learn how to read, then they had to learn how to, you know, they had to learn about the scale, they had to learn about the notes, the scales, you know, the modes. They had to learn all these kind of rules that helped them conceptualize how everything went together. And I think that's what the CE5 protocols help us to do. And I'm ever so grateful to Dr. Greer for those. The main thing that draws me to that particular practice, because there are spiritual practices all over the world that have always gone on where indigenous peoples have made contact, whether they called them extraterrestrials or they called them gods or they called them, you know, celestials or their ancestors. And Rupert, you could probably speak to this since you did a lot of study with this. No matter where you go in ancient texts, you see exactly like, you know, there you have an archetype, Ganesha, symbolizing something far greater than what humans see themselves as being able to do. But to be real, Ganesha is just a symbol for something inside yourself you can make contact with. And that's what the real contact is. It's finding out, you know, as human beings, we are outward referring. So we like to believe the greater knowledge is out here with higher level beings and, you know, demigods or, you know, shamans or high priests or whatever. But they're just like learning the notes and the scales and the modes, you know, of music theory. Basically, when you finally put all that together and you start playing music in a wonderful, resonant way, harmonious way, you realize the music was inside of you all the time. You just didn't know quite how to express it in a way that would be relatable to others and to your own recognition. So what I try to tell people is, yes, we do attempt, especially on these evenings that we get together, to make extraterrestrial, interdimensional, even ultra-terrestrial contact, okay? Contact with any benevolent beings. And we try to gain wisdom from them, share energy, whatever we can. But that is still it's just the foundational context for making contact with the deep inner self, which is everything, which is the universe, YOU, universe. So that's why I'm so passionate about it, because I want to know who's in there. I want to know, I do know the truth of it now, that we are unlimited, we're infinite, we are the holographic expression of all that is. And we're all connected. And I'm sure, Rupert, you can explain this a lot better than I can, but, you know, via quantum entanglement, we are all part of the same stuff, and we are all connected, and we are all affecting everything all at once at the same time forever. So I believe we have access to all of that. We just have to learn the method to get to it all, right? So that the music will come out of us. And that's really what this practice is about. So some people may be resistant to having a formalized practice. And some nights when we get together, you know, out in the field, we have just gone out and, you know, maybe done a meditation and kind of chit-chatted and shared our stories, and we've still had great contact. But what I wanted to do tonight was to kind of lead you in some of the formal practices so that you would understand the kind of foundation that is very helpful, and including when you're by yourself. Maybe you've had a really hectic week or a bad day and you just can't quite get tuned in the way you like to. Try some of these protocols and it'll tune your radio dial just a little bit. Speaking of which, I forgot to get my radio off of the charger. Thank you for reminding me. So you can tune your radio dial anywhere and make a communication. Okay. So having said that, I think it'd be interesting for some of you just that I go through a little bit of it. I wrote it out a little bit on our page just so that you'd have it. But those of you who run groups and everything, you might find this a little bit sophomoric, so please bear with me. But I think it really is helpful to just kind of go over what we're going to do. And it's not set in stone either. You know, none of this is. I'm definitely not a dictator. Our group I like for people to, you know, participate and add in things. So, or do some of the stuff with us. I don't like having to do it all. But anyway, what I thought we would do is, now that we've had our social time, and it's okay to interact throughout the rest of the evening too, but we want to make it not as chit-chatty. We want to maintain a nice meditative state, right? We want to keep ourselves in theta brainwave state or above. That's where we make our contact. It's easier for us to meet frequencies with Star Family and with the interdimensionals and with even the ground beings who are here, maybe even the inner dimensionals. When we have our brainwave pattern in the theta or above, or I should say below. I don't know how it goes, but you know, in that spectrum. So here in a little bit after I give this kind of overview, we'll take a little comfort break. And those of you who want to go outside with your devices, if you have the ability to do that, I invite you to do it because it's going to be a great evening. And even though here it's not getting dark yet, the first few protocols we always seem to do in the daylight before it falls dark. And by the time that we've gone into our silent meditation, when we come out of it, it's usually dark, and then we can have Skywatch. So that's what we're going to do after this. We'll go through taking a break, and those of us who want to go outside and get set up outside, we'll give it about 10 or 15 minutes. We'll vote on how long you want to take. Those of you who are stuck maybe looking at a desktop computer and can't go outside, have no fear, because you can do, or maybe you don't feel good or it's bad weather where you are or something. You can stay inside and just continue to stay in your meditative state. You could chant, you could do whatever feels good to you, and just allow whatever is going to happen, because contact doesn't just happen outside. It doesn't just happen at night. In fact, some of the local group here can attest to, we've had plenty of indoor contact that we've documented even, in the middle of winter when it was, too bad to go outside. So you get to go outside or not. Those of us, or if you want to go outside and do Skywatch after the meditation, we'll give a time period for that, and then you can come back inside and join us on the Zoom for the discussion part, and we'll call you back, or we'll have a predetermined time. So kind of the format will be, once we go outside, I'm going to start with a puja or an invocation. Tonight's, unless somebody else has wanted to volunteer one, I had a kind of a indigenous peoples type of invocation I thought I would give instead of doing a Sanskrit puja like I usually do. I feel very called to do that tonight if someone else didn't want to do one. If you do want to do one, just volunteer, and you can take the show on the road if you like, and we will be so happy to have you do it. But we all take turns doing that. But what that does, just for those of you who may not be familiar with what that is, puja just means it's a ritual to kind of get you into that state of mind. It's like when you practice martial arts, you put on a specific gi or a uniform. When you practice yoga, you step on your mat. When you, you know, there are just certain things that you do as a human being when you are getting ready to do something specific that puts you into the framework brainwave wise to leave the rest of the world behind. So puja or invocation helps set the tone. It's like saying, okay, class, let's all come together and we're going to start getting coherent. And basically what we're going to do tonight is just thank everybody and invite everybody to join us, because that's what this night is about. It's a global CE5 night. We're going to ask for coherency on our planet and a lot of other things. And then we're going to ask to join with the ETs and interdimensionals. And there may be some surprises. Yes, we always, with our coherent thought sequencing part, always invite, you know, we go out, we show them where we are, we bring them, you know, back in or help ask them to come here and visit in our realm. But we also, because I do a lot of OBE stuff and some of the other members of our team do too, and have for decades, and remote viewing and all of that, astral travel, we can go out and be with them as well. So don't be afraid to be very open-ended with your intentions tonight. Or maybe you would like to have physical interaction here on the ground. Maybe you would like to interact with beings, or maybe you're getting your messages through animal communication around you, or whatever. Just be open and be sure you report what you're getting. So we'll do puja, and then I might do a little orientation, or if anybody else would like to do sky orientation, just kind of mention what we're going to be seeing in the sky overnight. Since right now we don't have any international people, most of us are either Eastern time or Central time, so we're very close in our time zones. We should have about the same kind of procession through the evening that we can just talk about, so that just as we do when we're sitting in circle in the field, if for instance, Larissa, you're out there and you say, oh, I see something close to Vega, we'll kind of know where Vega is. Those of you who don't have apps, we'll kind of point out a few of those things that you'll see in the sky, so you can kind of direct everybody else's attention to it. And we'll do the coordinates too, so that you can kind of say, you know, at 60 degrees northeast, here's what I'm seeing. And then other people can direct their attention there. So after the coordinates, orientation, then what I'd like to do is play the singing bowl and have us all chant the Hue mantra together. Those of you who were, who saw the, or followed the Harmonic Convergence event this last couple weeks, you know, Mark always, that was basically, he was told by his ET guide, Tejabar, that this is the CE6 protocol. CE6 meaning global initiated contact. And the global initiated contact protocol was very simple. Chanting Hue together. In his process, it was for 22 minutes at a time. We're not going to do it for 22 minutes. We'll do it till it feels like it's right not to do it. But chanting, like sometimes we chant Om together. We're not all doing it at the same time. We start out at the same time, but everybody's breath capacity is different. So you might take a breath while I'm still chanting Hue, which is another Sanskrit word. It's an ancient word for basically the mind of God or all that is or whatever. Basically, you're just trying to connect to that higher self. So I may still be chanting and you may need to take a breath, and then you'll start chanting again. And what happens is we get this lovely wave of different people coming in and out of it. And it really does bring you deeply into a state of meditation. And it's a nice invitation. It's like playing the crop circle tones. If any of you have ever played those on your app, which we'll probably do again tonight too. So we'll chant you, and then we'll have a tiny little bit of silent meditation. Then we'll go right into the guided coherent thought sequencing meditation, or the, where we kind of become very coherent as a group. And then we become coherent as a global group. And then we send that energy out to the cosmos to connect with benevolent star beings and other beings, and show them where we are and ask them to come and visit and communicate with us. And then again, we'll have silent meditation after that. And then as you will, you can look up. And by that time, it should be dark enough, especially for you, Kathy. By then, it'll be dark enough where you can see the sky if it's not cloudy. And don't freak out if it is cloudy. We've had great contact underneath the clouds and through the clouds. So just, be open to whatever. But we'll do that. We intend that we will have lots of visitors and experiences. Feel free to document in any way. Feel free to use whatever devices you have to show. I don't know if, I don't have a way to put my night vision on my iPad. So it's probably going to just look like darkness while we're on the Zoom outside. But if I see something, I'll at least say where kind of direct everybody's attention to where it is. And I invite you to do the same so we can all look and see what we're doing. Use your binoculars, telescopes, whatever you like, or just use your beautiful eyes. And then we'll take a little comfort break, and then we'll decide if we want to, it depends on how late it is, if we want to go back in. If we do go back into another meditation, that meditation will be one where we go out to visit some of the beings perhaps. And you can do this while you're having the sighting, by the way. Those of you who are good at remote view or out of body experience, astral travel, feel free to go and join them wherever, where they are. Ask politely if you may board, if it's a craft, if it's a conscious entity, ask if you may join them in their energy field. And then, have your experience and then come back and report it to us. Absolutely. Okay. So we may do that. And then usually by that time, it's getting pretty late. And, we'll do some sharing and then we'll sign off. There is a group in California, for those of you who aren't aware yet, who do have a great Gen 3 night vision camera affixed to their laptop or iPad or whatever, and they host right after ours. Usually it starts around 11 o'clock our Central Time, which is 9 o'clock Pacific Time, and then they take over, and theirs is always just the view of the sky, and they always have some fun stuff happening there. So I've linked that in our event too. But anyway, that's kind of what we're going to do. And if channeling may happen, if you feel like you want to speak about anything or you want to report something is happening, like, you can report, ooh, the temperature just dropped really quickly, or it just got really hot, or there's a mist coming around me and it's clear everywhere else. Speak up and report any anomalies or any kind of interesting things that are happening during our session tonight. Okay. All right. So I've talked for a long time. Anybody have anything they want to say or share or ask questions about? We cool? Everybody good? Okay, so by my clock, it's 8:05 Central Time, so that would be 9:05, well, 9:06 now, Kathy's time. Do you want to give it about 10 minutes? Come back around 8:15/9:15. Will that give you enough time to like take a comfort break and go outside and set yourself up? We'll give you a little more time if it takes more time before we go into the protocols outside, but want to give yourself enough time to get set up and be really comfortable and have everything you want, have your drinks, have your snacks handy, have your bug spray. Highly recommend, even if it's hot, putting on long sleeve and long leg clothes, but you do what you do. But does that sound good? 8:15, 9:15 for different time zones.
I could be ready by 20 past, would that work?
All right, 20 past. So let's give ourselves 15 minutes, everyone. Okay, so 20 past the hour, we'll all convene again. And any questions about that? Because it'll take me just a little while to set my equipment up outside too. All right,
Nope.
And you okay, Matt?
Yeah, nope, no
Okay.
questions.
Okay, great. Is there anyone who can't take their device outside? Everybody going outside? Okay.
I can't really take mine. It's sort of like on a city street, and I just probably will stay in the room.
That's
it's a lot
fine.
of a little noise. People
Sure.
like with their radios and city good
Got
stuff.
Got it. That's okay. And so, Kathy, that's fine. We'll just keep you with us outside, and we'll try to share as much as we can with you. But please share what you get inside. Okay.
Well, I can go out and look after
after our meditations.
Yeah. But
Okay, good.
I can't. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. All right. I just wanted to make sure everybody understood how that was going to work. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not taking mine either.
Okay.
I don't know that I have signal outside. So.
All right. We'll see you at 20 past. All right. Or a little thereafter. All right. See you in a little bit.
You soon.
I'll just stay on. So.